Borderlands 4 is finally here, and a lot of players are already wondering how to get the most out of the game's first true melee-focused vault hunter, Amon. Leveling in Borderlands has always been about finding the right balance between power, survivability, and efficiency, and with Amon, that can be a little tricky if you don't know what to prioritize early on. That's exactly what we're going to be breaking down here today in this video. What's up guys, my name is Fervor, welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm going to walk you through a complete leveling guide for Amon, including the skills you need to focus on, the gear you need to grab as you progress, and overall the playstyle that will make early, mid, and late game of your leveling phase as smooth as possible. With that said, let's dive right on in. Alright, before we dive on in, just keep in mind I live stream both here on YouTube as well as Twitch, so if you have any questions about the build or anything about the game in general, feel free to stop by. I'm going to be live streaming probably about 12 hours a day, so you'll be able to get your questions answered pretty well. Let's go over the core concept of this build so you have a better idea of how it performs, how it works, and how you should be playing it. The setup is centered around Amon's vengeance tree, and right out the gate, this tree shines because of how much synergy it has with Ordnance. That interaction alone gives you three critical things: massive AoE damage, consistent sustain, and most importantly, overshield whenever you apply status effects. The beautiful thing about this setup is that applying statuses isn't some high barrier mechanic. It's actually very achievable once you start investing into the tree, which means you're consistently getting offense, defense, and utility by just doing what the build wants you to do naturally. The other pillar of this build is Amon's Scourge ability. When you activate Scourge, Amon pulls out both his shield and a whip. During this phase, you'll be able to reduce damage while also building up vengeance stacks. Those stacks are what empower your attacks. The way it works is as long as you're actively blocking or just taking hits, you'll be able to charge your vengeance, and by pressing your action skill key, you'll be able to unleash a forge wave, sending out multiple waves of damaging frost that apply statuses to everything that they touch. Now once you invest deeper into the tree, you unlock the augment called Eternal Winter, and this is where your build really comes online. Eternal Winter allows forge wave to partially restore both your shield and your action skill, and this is going to make it so that you're going to continue to stay in this form much longer than you naturally would. This, in addition to some of our armor mods we're going to be going over in a second, you actually end up having pretty massive AoE damage that's going to be pretty consistent. This means that this, in combination with some of the equipment we're going to go over in just a second, you end up having really good status as well as just overall damage pressure, despite Amon being a much more tankier character. This is the core gameplay loop of this build. Let's go into the equipment so you guys have a better idea of how to put it together. Alright, so let's talk about the equipment, and the equipment is a very important part of his build that we need to go over. And as you can probably tell, we're looking at two legendary items. Now I know initially you're thinking, well Fervor, this is going to be quite a pain to get this build up and running, and I will assure you it's not. It's very easy to farm these two, and then we'll go over how to farm them and why it's not really a big deal. It's super easy to get, and generally speaking you're going to want to farm these somewhere between level 10 and 15, and then somewhere between level 20 and 25. You want to restore these two items as their damage will eventually fall off as you continue to level. So the first things first we're going to talk about is the Firework Shield. What the Firework Shield does is whenever you kill an enemy, this will spawn missiles at home and or nearby enemies, dealing a set amount of damage. The reason why this is important for Amon specifically is because he is a defensive character. What you need to do as an Amon player, and this is just for pretty much all his builds, is think of ways to make his defense give you offense. That's how you should always think of Amon as a character, and this is one of the best items to do that because he is inherently tanky, and whenever he actually loses an armor segment break, this gives you armor segments. It will also launch 3 additional missiles, each dealing a certain amount of damage. And the importance of this is simple. He's going to be on the front lines and he's going to be taking damage. His shields are going to break sometimes and missiles will go out. This in addition to the bundled effect, which will make it so that, you know, you shoot more missiles. When you're killing enemies, when you're actively taking damage, you're actively dealing pretty sizable AoE, and the missiles that kill enemies will go to other enemies and kill more enemies, and it creates a chain reaction. And this is super important to help sustain his damage because again, he is very defensive and damage can be a little bit harder for him. For our next item we're going to be using is going to be called Jelly. This is a legendary ordnance, and this is a ordnance focused build, by the way. And what this does is it has a really interesting animation where it's an impact grenade, and essentially what it does is whenever you throw it, it will shoot out multiple projectiles or like barrages of that element type directly in front. And you'll see in a lot of the footage that I'm using right now, I will throw it right in front of the enemies, right at their feet, and then it will explode out and multiple projectiles will hit the enemy. Now, personally, I'm going with a cryo focused grenade. You can have multiples if you want to farm for multiples for different situations, because you are going to be a very cryo slash fire focused build. So obviously you're not going to have the best matchup against everything. But I went with a cryo focused grenade, and I went with one that had hazardous on this. This is a grenade that has extra status chance, and it will have more status effect damage. You don't have to farm that long if you don't want to. It doesn't take long to get this item, and it's actually pretty simple. We'll go over where you need to get them right now. In order to get these, both of these items are found in the exact same location from the same exact boss, called Splash Zone. If you're playing this game right now, which I think I'm releasing this video day of launch or the day after, you should have fought Splash Zone. He's like one of the first bosses that you face off against, and he's going to be super easy to farm. If you're wondering where you can face him, this is the very beginning starting area, and as you can see here, this is the Splash Zone Encore location. This is a very simple rotation. It took me 20 minutes to get both of these, maybe even less to get both of these. It doesn't take long at all, and like I said, you want to go back here multiple times and do it between level 10 and 15, and do it between level 20 and 25. Another thing to keep in mind is he drops another legendary item. It's called the lead balloon. You don't necessarily need to use it. I just farmed it up, but it is a torque focused weapon. I really love torque weapons. They're my favorite in the game by such a large margin. You don't have to use them. I just like the tempting rider archetype. This like base shotgun archetype really is powerful, and it does a lot of damage. It typically has sticky mode and impact mode. But if you want to go with his lead balloon, because it is a very common drop, like these two drop the most, the lead balloon as well as the jelly, and then this one is going to be the hardest one to get of them. You're going to take probably 5 minutes to get these, and then it's going to take you 15 minutes to get this one. You don't necessarily need firework if you don't want to farm for 20 minutes. It's not a lot of farming. I'm sorry, it's not a lot of farming. You're playing Borderlands, but regardless, if you don't want to farm, you don't need it. But for the most part, you really need jelly. I think it's really important, and this one's super common drop. I get this one a lot. For the rest of the equipment, it doesn't matter too much. You can kind of just go with what you want. I would just say get something lightning focused, because shields can be a minor pain. Maybe something corrosion focused. I don't think I have either of those things. I'm progressing without either of those things. But I would say for you specifically, get something electric to kind of help you with the electric enemies. And you should be good to go, as you'll cover fire and you'll cover cold yourself. All right, next let's go over the skill tree, and we're going to be in the vengeance tree. This is the blue tree, and I am level 31 in this footage. No, actually 32 right now, as you can see, but I'm only investing 25 points. So this will be essentially I'm trying to keep it as early as possible, because obviously, you know, it's a leveling kind of build, and we're going to go over each part and what's important here. So for your first section, we're going to build it very specifically this way. I want Wrath of Nature. This is going to help you with status application and cryo effectiveness. And whenever you are during your action skill, this is going to be double the value. I typically want to max this one out whenever I get more than 25 points, but early on, get about 2 points into this just so it can help you out. I wouldn't grab this one first. I would actually grab the Thrill first. Now, the reason why we actually haven't allocated points into this one is because we actually got a class mod that has it on it, and this is going to be like the thing you need to keep in mind when you're playing. You want everything you see here selected, including the Thrill. Make sure you have that. Anything that you have class mod related that have any of these things selected is fine. If you see something with ballistic bulwark specifically on it, that is going to be the number one thing you want to have on your gear. This is the most important node to have on your entire class mod. Otherwise, make sure it has any of these ones that we have selected on screen now. So the Thrill is going to be every time you take or absorb non-status damage. So just basically like things that just straight up hit your bullet, stuff like that. You'll gain a stack of Resolute for a duration. This is going to increase more hits you take, and this is just going to increase how much healing that you get, and it's going to regenerate more the lower the health that you have. You can stack this up to I believe 20 times, and then you'll be able to you know, get a lot of health from regeneration, and this is going to be a good way to keep your health high and full whenever you're playing. The other thing you're going to be picking up is Scorched Kairos. This is going to give you more ordnance damage and magazine size. The ordnance damage is what we care about the most here. That's why we're maxing this out, because you will be throwing ordnance constantly because that's what he's very good at. For the next row, you're going to be picking up Tail of the Comet. Whenever you deal any ordnance damage, there's a chance to apply cryo status effect that deals cryo damage over time for a duration. Now, one thing that is important to know is it's affected by cryo's effect application chance. This is kind of why we wanted to have increased status application chance. That's super important. But the other thing that's important to keep in mind is whenever you pull out your weapon, you start hitting with it, for some reason it's considered ordnance damage. I don't know why, but it is. I don't know how it scales either, if I'm being honest. But irregardless, what it does is Tail of the Comet is going to give you extra damage, so you'll be applying dots on top of the initial whip effect. And whenever you throw grenades, you're going to be applying ordnance damage, which will put a dot on it as well. And you're going to continue to do damage over time, cryo focus. So that's why we're using this, and this one's really big. After, we're going to be picking up Machinist, and whenever you kill, you're going to restore a percentage of your ordnance cooldown because we want to continue to throw ordnance as much as possible. Or shoot ordnance if you choose not to go with jelly. Once you move on to the next tree, you're going to be picking up Eternal Winter. This is very straightforward, but this is one of his best nodes. What Eternal Winter does is it converts his base, like whip thing that he does, to being able to restore a portion of your action skill duration whenever you hit enemies. And this will actually work for firewall as well. So whenever you put up your firewall and you're hitting with your whip, it will restore 5% of your firewall and 2.5% of your action skill duration whenever you hit enemies. And this actually means whenever you hit multiple enemies, so if you walk into a room and there's 5 of them and one wave hit 5 of them, each of those enemies will give you 2.5%. So each individual damage instance, not the damage over time instance, but the initial hit instance, will give you action skill duration recharge on your character. And this is really important, and positioning is super important when you're playing him to maintain keeping this up. When you're facing off against bosses, they're really big typically, so it's easy to kind of like hit them. But when you're in rooms with a lot of enemies, try to cleave them so that you can continue to you know, keep this up and going. This is important. Put your wall in positions where multiple enemies could be hit, and you play around your wall if enemies are a little bit more aggressive to walking towards you. It will deal fire damage over time, and the wall cannot be destroyed. The wall physically cannot be destroyed. No matter what is shot at it, it can't be destroyed. The only time a wall can be destroyed is if you run out of cooldown. So this makes wall very overpowered in my opinion. So yeah, this will keep your wall up and it'll deal damage over time, which is fire-based damage. As I said a second ago, because whip applies ordnance as well, it's considered an ordnance, this is going to also put that damage over time from the what's this called, Tail of the Comet, onto enemies when you hit them with that. So keep in mind, this is going to give you a damage over time stack as well. Now over on the left side, we're going to be picking up Wildfire. Unless you have class mods that give you ballistic bulwark, you don't necessarily care about Wildfire. It's fine if you do. Ideally, I think you would want those points somewhere else, but whatever. Most of you probably won't have a class mod. Wildfire is just going to give you ricochet damage, and burning duration. This is fine for your wall, as well as some of your other statuses, so it's cool. And then you're going to get ballistic bulwark. Amon gains overshield whenever you deal ordnance damage. Whenever you throw your grenade, it's going to give you overshield. Whenever you hit with your frost wave, it's going to give you overshield. That is the core concept of having this. This is your, in my opinion, most important defensive stat, because we don't want our shields being hit. We don't want our health being lowered. Eventually, you're going to pick up things like this, Battleborn, where you get more damage when your health is full and things like that. And so something like this giving you overshield is going to make it so that you're always full health, because you're going to have overshield to keep you alive. The final thing that you need to select is called the Ring of Frostfire. This is going to be your capstone skill. And what this does is it makes it so that your firewall is now a ring that deals incendiary damage and enemies that's within it. And then the ones who walk through the wall will take cryo damage whenever they leave or enter it. Also, you're going to get friendly projectiles whenever they pass through it. They're going to get more damage and speed, so it'll move out of the wall faster. And this is going to be an insane zone control and tons of AoE fire damage. And this is going to be something that you're going to try to, once again, position really well where you're fighting or on top of the boss or anything like that. That's like kind of how you want to position it. And it's going to do a lot of damage over the course of the fight. So it's a really important node to have. Anyway, that's pretty much it for everything you need to make this build work. I'm going to avoid specialization because this is a leveling build and most of you probably won't have specialization unlocked for a while. If you are watching this video and you want to know my specialization, just look on my channel. I'll probably have a more updated build specifically for that. If you have any question, comments, or concerns about the build, or you even want to make any improvements on it from a leveling perspective, feel free to leave it down there in the comment section. I'm very likely streaming on Twitch when you watch this video, so come hang out if you have any questions as well. Really appreciate it if you guys come check out. I'll be streaming on Twitch and YouTube both. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next Amon build video very soon.